In this section, we're going to talk about the distributive property. The distributive property is extremely important, not only in algebra, but you'll see it all through mathematics. So we're going to run through several examples just to make sure we get the concept down. So let's get started. We have the first example, we have a 7, and we're going to multiply this by the expression 3x plus 4. Okay, now what the distributive property says is we're going to take this term out here, we're going to take 7, and we're going to multiply each term inside the parentheses by this 7. We're going to distribute this 7 into the parentheses. So in actuality, what we're doing is we're going to get a 7 times 3x. We're working from left to right. Now we're going to take the same 7 and distribute it to the 4. 7, we're going to plus 7 times 4. And this gives us 7 times 3x is 21x. Plus 7 times 4 is 28. Okay, so what did we learn here? What we did is we took this number out here and we multiplied each term in the parentheses by this number out here. What the distributive property tells us is that the product of the sums is the same as the sum of the products, if that makes sense. It's not really important because that's more theory than anything, but basically we want to take this number out here, we want to distribute it into each term in the parentheses. Here there's only 2 terms, a 3x and a 4, but there easily could have been 3 or 4 or 100 terms. It would have worked out the same, just been a lot longer. Let's do another one. Let's say we have a 5. We're going to multiply it by the expression, let's say we have minus 11 minus 4y. Okay, here we have a couple of negative signs, so we want to be careful working with negative signs. We don't want to lose any, which is quite easy for me to do sometimes. Okay, so what does our distributive property tell us? What we do is we're going to take this 5, we're going to multiply it, we're going to distribute it into the parentheses. We're going to multiply each term in the parentheses by 5. So what do we have? We have 5 times minus 11, then we have 5 times a minus 4y. Okay, what we simply did is took this 5 and multiplied it by both terms. We have a minus 11 and a minus 4y. Multiplied a positive 5 by 2 terms. And then we can just multiply this out. 5 times a negative 11 is minus 55. Plus 5 times a negative 4y is a minus 20y. Let's be careful with our minus signs. Now here, instead of adding a negative, we can simplify this and rewrite this as a minus 55 minus 20y. And that would be our answer. Okay, so distributing this 5, we want to make sure that we take care of our minus signs correctly, because those can ruin an answer. Actually, let's work with one where we're distributing a negative number. Let's say we have a minus 3. We're going to multiply that by the expression, let's say 3x squared. This is called a quadratic equation. It has a power of 2. We're actually going to learn about these in a later section. But for now, we have a 3x squared plus 4x and minus 2. Okay. Distributive property. What we're going to do is we're going to take this minus 3 and multiply it by each term in the parentheses. We have a negative 3 out here, so let's be careful with our signs. Minus 3 times 3x squared minus 3 times a positive 4x minus 3 times a minus 2. Okay, and later on we can eventually skip this step and just multiply straight and go straight to the multiplication. But I want to really make sure you understand that what we're doing is when we say we're distributing this minus 3, we're multiplying each term inside the parentheses. So it's actually a string of terms multiplied by the same number. Okay, if that makes sense. So we can go ahead and multiply these. We have minus 3 times 3x squared is going to give us a minus 9x squared. minus 3 times a positive 4x is going to give us a minus 12x. And then a minus 3 and a negative 2. A negative times a negative gives us a positive. 3 times 2 is 6. And that's our answer. We always want to make sure we take care of those negative signs, especially when they're out front. When we're distributing a negative sign, it essentially what it does is it changes the signs of each term that we're distributing to. In fact, let's actually do that. Let's see an example where we're simply just distributing a negative sign. Let's say we have a negative or an opposite of the following expression. We have x cubed minus x squared plus x minus 1. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're just going to distribute a minus sign. Now, in essence, what we're doing is we have a minus 1 here. The 1 is understood. So what we're going to do is we're really distributing a minus 1 into the parentheses, into each term. But when we just have a minus out here, what we can do is we can actually rewrite this expression just with the opposite sign. Because basically that's what we do. We found out in an earlier video that when we take the opposite of something, we multiply it by a minus 1. So we can say that the opposite of a positive x cubed is a negative x cubed. The opposite of a minus x squared is a positive x squared. Now what we're really doing is we're multiplying each term in the expression by a minus 1. We're distributing it into each term. We have a positive x times a minus 1 gives us a minus x, and a minus 1 times a minus 1 gives us a positive 1. There you go. So we just always want to make sure that we get this minus sign taken care of when we're distributing it. And it's basically what we're doing is we're changing the signs of each term in the expression. Let's move on. Let's move to an example where we are distributing a fraction. Let's say we have 2x divided by 3. We want to multiply this by the expression 2x over 3 times y squared minus 1 divided by xy. Okay, don't get excited about all the variables and fractions. We basically just have one term to distribute with two terms in the parentheses. So what we're going to do is we know how to multiply fractions. What do we do? We multiply numerator and numerator, denominator and denominator. Y squared is simply just a term or a rational number with 1 as the denominator. So we can actually write it like this just to clarify what we're doing. But what we're going to do is we're going to distribute this fraction 2x over 3 into each term in the parentheses. So let's actually write out the steps like we did up here just so we can make sure we're clear on things. So what do we have? We have 2x over 3 times y squared over 1. Then we have a minus 2x over 3 and a 1 over xy. Now we also could have wrote this plus 2x over 3 minus 1x over, 1 over xy. It would have been the same. It doesn't matter if the minus sign is on the 2x over 3 or if it's on the 1 over xy. We're still basically multiplying a positive and a negative, so it doesn't matter which term has the negative on it. So let's move on. So basically what we're doing is we're multiplying two rational numbers. We'll multiply numerator, numerator, denominator, and denominator. So 2x times y squared gives us a 2x y squared. The denominators, 3 times 1 gives us 3, minus 2x times 1 is simply 2x. 3 times xy is 3xy. Okay. And that's our answer. So don't get excited when we're distributing a fraction. We're distributing a rational number. We do know how to multiply rational numbers. Let's look at one more. Let's say we have 2x plus 1 as an expression, we're going to subtract 3 times the expression, let's say x plus 2. Okay, so what do we do here? Well, first thing, this first expression, we can remove the parentheses because we're not multiplying by anything here. It's just simple addition. So we can drop the parentheses and say this is 2x plus 1. And now the second term, what we have is we're distributing this minus 3. My phone is acting weird. We're going to distribute this minus 3 into the parentheses. So what we have is minus 3 times x and a minus 3 times 2. We just distributed this minus 3 into this parentheses, into both of these terms. Now we can multiply this out. We have 2x plus 1. We can rewrite. We have a minus 3x. Minus 3 times 2 is minus 6. Okay, and now we can combine like terms here. We have 2 terms with x, and then we have 2 whole numbers. So this gives us 2x minus 3x is a minus x, minus 1x. Minus 3, and a positive 2 gives us a minus 1. Then we have 1, positive 1, and a minus 6. 1 minus 6 is a minus 5. Minus x minus 5. And that's our answer. Okay, we're running out of time. So what do we learn here? Basically, when we're dealing with the distributive property, we take whatever number or whatever expression, this can be an expression, an integer, a rational number, we take it and we multiply it, we distribute it into the parentheses, and we multiply each term in the parentheses by whatever number's out here, whatever rational number, integer, or whatever have you. And that it doesn't matter if we have 2 terms, 3 terms, 4 terms, or 100 terms. It all works the same. We always want to watch our minus signs, though, because those can get lost in the multiplication and can completely ruin our answer. We're out of time, and I'll see you soon.